What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I am currently at the Barclays Center, inside the Barclays Center, a matter of fact, and I have a very special guest joining us here today. It's been madness all around, and me and Rodney are going to explain it all. Rodney James, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's up, Edward? This is Rodney James Edgar reporting to you live from Starfade Studios in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a little jealous, though, of your position. And you're right, it's absolutely crazy over there. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, so usually you are at all of the press conferences and
I try to be.
Asking all the fighters, questions. I've seen you plenty of times in there. And
Cool.
right now, behind me, the press conference is about to go down. There's been a lot of confusing news going around, and people need answers for everything between last night. Let's start from last night. You know what? Let's rewind all the way to Sunday, April Fool's Day, because that's when really everything started going downhill.
Yeah.
For us MMA fans.
What a terrible time.
Where were you when you found this news out, and what was your reaction?
Right here at home, man. And I think I saw it on, I saw it on Twitter. I think Brett Okamoto might have been one of the first to put it out there as far as Tony Ferguson being out. It's crazy because I had just talked to Tony a couple of days ago, and I was trying to get him. Well, first of all, I was on the conference call, and I didn't get a chance to ask a question because him and Khabib spent so much time bickering that it literally took up all the time. So I reached out to him, and I hit him up, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'll come to your show, man, no problem." Of course, if he's injured, he's not going to tell me that at the time. I might just leak the information or whatever. But I really just did not expect it. And April Fool's Day and Easter Sunday of all days is just not a good. Generally, it's not an MMA news day. And I was like, there's no way in hell this really happened. And then when you find out the narrative that he tripped over some extension cord, it's like, oh, come on. This is a joke. It has to be a joke.
It sounded like a joke. It really did sound like a joke. And April Fool's, I was seeing Brett Okamoto tweeted out, and I was like, man, he can't be lying about it. I mean, he's working over at ESPN. I hope he's not lying about it. And come to find out, what unravels, Tony had, the worst luck ever. And ends up tripping. He gets pulled out of the fight. But let's update our fans on what's going on right now. I am at UFC 223 weigh-ins. There's been confusion all morning. Max Holloway has been pulled from the UFC 223 card because he is not medically cleared. Now, he was already stepping up on 6 days' notice, so everyone's been in a panic. Before we let any more news unravel there, I mean, what was your thought on that breaking news between Max Holloway fighting Khabib?
I got a lot of questions on that one too, because normally I do a show similar to this leading up to a big pay-per-view such as UFC 223. And after last Sunday, I kind of opted, I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and do a recap one on Sunday. Let everything, but never in a million years did I think that I would wake up to the news yesterday of Conor McGregor going on this rampage and then people being pulled off the card. I mean, 3 whole fights that got completely sabotaged by that. And then, of course, I wake up to the news today that Max Holloway is quote unquote unfit. I don't even medically unfit. I don't even know what that means. What's the reason? I have so much to unpack there, but I was like, man, I'm glad I didn't do a podcast the day before yesterday because it would have been irrelevant. I'm glad I didn't do one yesterday because it too would have been irrelevant. And we got to move past it, But now, bring us up to speed. What's the latest and the greatest from Brooklyn?
It's funny that you said that because somebody standing right next to me, one of the listeners, showed me a picture. It's breaking news right now, guys, that Al Iaquinta is going to be fighting in the main event against Khabib Nurmagomedov. I believe they only settled on a 3-round fight, though, instead of a 5-round fight, and it will not be for the championship. Khabib Nurmagomedov was saying, I don't want a fight that's not for the title. Why should he put it all on the line, risk it? And, between the drama that unraveled last night, Conor McGregor going nuts. Everyone is talking about that. My grandmother called me this morning. My mom's roommate called me this morning wanting to know what was going on. It's good for the sport, but it's bad for the sport. What was your reaction to Conor McGregor busting that window of the bus, injuring Michael Chiesa and everything else?
I want to give my reaction to the news about Raging Al.
Yes.
I hope that it's a 5-rounder because it's typically a 5-rounder when it's, even if it's non-title in a main event, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they bumped Joanna and Rose to the main event. We'll see how that plays out. But here is my reaction. Cheers. Cheers to Raging Al.
Yeah, man, right here in New York. You know, here's the thing. When I found this news out, I was just outside minutes before we started recording here, and I told the crowd outside, I was like, guys, I got breaking news from mymmanews.com, and everyone's reaction was just blank. Like, I was like, there's no reaction, guys? You're not pumped to see Al Iaquinta? So here's the story with Al. You know, there was a little bit of drama there because he was 2 pounds overweight, but with his underwear on. 0.2 pounds overweight, but with his underwear on. Showtime Pettis was also in the running as well, trying to get that main event fight. They weren't able to settle on a reasonable price, apparently.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I thought that was totally weird. I thought, you know, if anything, how do you miss putting that fight together? Despite, you know, because some people have brought up, well, Pettis' record is 2-5 over his last 7. Yeah, but at the end of the day, number one, the casual fan doesn't know that. And number two, you're talking about a guy who's a former champion who absolutely could beat, you know, Khabib is a nightmare matchup for him. A lot of people have pointed that out. Listen, man, everybody's an expert. But let me tell you, Khabib is a nightmare matchup for everyone. There's no such thing, I mean, that we've seen. But my initial reaction, and this is the God's honest truth, to the whole Conor situation with the video and just reading my timeline in real time and just going, holy crap, is this really happening? This is like, I mean, this just doesn't happen. But I have a lot of experience probably throughout my entire life, not something I'm bragging about, I'm really proud of, but I'm just telling you from my perspective, I've been around a lot of people with drug and alcohol problems, and to me, that's what that looked like. It looked like a guy who had spent an entire flight over on a private jet like a fucking rock star, drinking Irish whiskey and doing blow the entire time. And when he hit the ground, he went into a complete rampage. But it also looked a little bit like, you remember the when a fight would break out in like junior high or high school, and one of the guys would just be like really over the top because he's actually just trying to get somebody to intervene to like break the fight up. Because I feel like if he really wanted to get at Khabib and his team, it could have been done. It could have been done a number of ways. It didn't have to be at the venue where there's tons of security. They could have ambushed them at the I'm thinking tactically here as a soldier, of course.
Yeah.
They could have done it. Supposedly, there was a confrontation with Artem Lobov and Khabib's team a day or two prior. That prompted Conor to come all the way over to the United States and go completely ham. I mean, that's some crazy shit. But again, to me, it looked like a guy who was out of his mind on coke. Now, I don't have any proof, and I'm purely speculating, but that's just what I saw.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel bad for Artem Lobov, who's getting pulled off of this fight, because let's look back at Artem's last fight when Conor McGregor kind of showed up in the same kind of circumstance. It looked like he's been, you know, drinking at least for all day. Shows up, and Mark Goddard even had to stop the fight in the middle of all the action. He had to stop the fight and, you know, yell at Conor McGregor. And then the Bellator thing, and now we have this. Now Artem is getting pulled off the card. He's injured Michael Chiesa, who's getting pulled off the card. And it's just madness. When is enough enough? I mean, here's the thing, though. You can look at this two ways, right? You can look at it like Conor McGregor's acting like a punk, which he is. He really is acting like a punk. He really took it too far in my eyes. I'm a Conor McGregor fan, but I've been getting a little teed off at some of the actions. But at the same time, all these headlines, like I just said, my grandmother was calling me. My mom's roommate was calling me. Now all these people know there's a UFC fight this weekend at least, right?
Yeah. No, my mother-in-law, the first thing, I was getting my kids ready to take them to daycare. And my mother-in-law was in town visiting. She was on the way to the airport. And so as she was saying bye to the kids, she goes, "Hey, have you heard about Conor McGregor?" I said, "Do you know how close to the sport I am? Of course I know about Conor McGregor, but, you know, it's crazy. I mean, it's just one thing after another." As far as and I spoke about this at length on my Twitter feed, you know, because I have an above average knowledge of how these things kind of play out. Some from firsthand experience, others from being close to this kind of thing, and also from my time in the insurance business, because a lot of this has to do with insurance, personal injury, and property damage. And as we saw on his arraignment, the criminal side of it's pretty negligible. I mean, he got a felony, a low-level felony, criminal mischief, which will probably that'll definitely get pled down. There's no way that sticks as a felony, and it was $8,000 worth of damage, of property damage. So again, that's very minimal.
Yeah.
Not to downplay it or excuse the behavior. I'm just putting in perspective. It's not as bad as people think, but the civil side of it, unfortunately. There's going to be a lot of people that have the right to sue, especially the ones that were physically injured. I mean, that's the slam dunk. If you're physically injured, I mean, that's a really easy case to win. There's definitely money on the table, and I guarantee you there are sharks out there that will pursue it. And I don't blame the injured fighters for doing that. I mean, if a millionaire attacks you, you sue. That's what you do. I mean, listen, if you're stupid enough, you have that much money, and you're dumb enough to attack somebody with a weapon, you deserve to have some of your money taken, quite frankly.
Well, look what Reed Harris said last night. I mean, the former owner, WEC, UFC vice president of athlete development last night tweeted out, "At hospital with one of my coworkers, possibly broken hand due to attack by Conor and his gang of thugs. I got cut and showered with glass. We thought we were gonna die." Now that sounds like someone who's definitely about to sue, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's playing it up. He's playing that up big time. And hey, that's what you're supposed to do if you're planning to go to court. And then I also heard, and I forget the source, but somebody said that Chiesa was pressing charges. Now that could add to the criminal element. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that based on his injuries and based on the way that he got injured, it wasn't from Conor directly putting his hands on him, but it was actually more indirect from Conor, causing. So in other words, you could argue that was a weapon that causes what I'm saying. And so I think that you might have a felony assault there because, again, going back to the original charges we heard about that we know about so far, 3 misdemeanor assaults is nothing. I mean, a misdemeanor assault is a fine. It's $500. You pay it. It's done. It's like being drunk in public. I mean, it's nothing. Yeah. Conor McGregor's mugshot, not bad. Not a bad looking mugshot there.
First there was Jim Morrison, right? Jim Morrison's mugshot. Now we got Conor McGregor's mugshot to the wall.
He's going full gangster on us. But I tell you, just to circle back real quick to the Al Iaquinta situation before I forget. Important. I wanted to mention that I'm making my endorsement right. I'm making my prediction for the upset right now. I seriously hope that they make this a 5-rounder. I've said all morning, like, listen, why is this so hard with the with the Paul Felder? They don't want to put him in because he's not ranked.
Can we talk about that? Because the rankings is just ridiculous. I mean, who makes the rankings, first off? This is just a huge issue. They won't put Paul Felder in there because he's on rank. He's one of the best fighters in that division. But
I feel like he is, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was in the top 15, but I mean, you remember when Michael Bisping fought Dan Henderson, and that pissed off a lot of hardcore fans because Henderson was ranked number 13. He wasn't even in the top 10. So, I mean, it was just a situation. Yeah, so I'm looking at the top 10 or the top 15 right now. So yeah, it actually looks like Al Iaquinta's number 11. So last time I checked, he was 10. Not bad. But yeah, but the Paul Felder situation, it's like don't make it a title fight then. Why are we talking about titles? Khabib doesn't even have a title. So, you know what I mean? It's like the whole interim title. It's so bizarre. It just continues to be bizarre.
I can't stand the whole interim thing. It almost seems like the UFC just slaps that sticker on to sell pay-per-views. And in this case, man, I mean, we were looking at a card where I didn't know how many people were going to really buy it because we were down to almost 8 fights left on the card after you lose Artem Lobov versus Bruce Leroy. You lose Michael Chiesa versus Showtime Pettis. You lose the main event. I mean, I feel so bad for CM Punk, who came out with news yesterday, and it's just been buried with all this drama.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad for Mike Jackson as well because that's the opponent. That's the guy who's been trying to get the fight. I did the same thing. I lobbied for a CM Punk fight long ago, before Mickey Gall was announced as the. But after I saw how badly that he looked, because it is, you make a point. It is worth noting that was some significant news that came out that got buried. I do look forward to that for no other reason than just being a hardcore fan. But like I said, after watching CM Punk in his debut and how awful he was, I felt bad for the guy, and I was like, there's no way I could fight that guy, because I would absolutely hurt him, and I would actually feel bad. I'd be a bully at that point.
I mean, just to keep on that note, even if he wins this fight, do you think the UFC will even give him another one? I think it's just over after that.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know that he can win because, I mean, even Mike Jackson is a guy who, he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but he does have some pro boxing experience, which is more than CM Punk has. He's got the same amount of pro MMA fighting experience. They're both 0-1 in the UFC, which is very bizarre. They're like the two, along with James Toney, they're like the only people in that category. But of course, neither have the credentials of a James Toney. And then Mike Jackson had one or two kickboxing and amateur MMA fights as well. So we're talking about way more experience than CM Punk. I don't know what he's been doing this whole time. I don't think either of them are all that serious about making a career as a fighter. It's just kind of I'm not saying I blame him. I mean, the same reason that I wanted to fight CM Punk was just to, it was just a bigger platform to get my name and my brand out there, quite frankly. That doesn't mean I won't still fight, but it's not going to be CM Punk, obviously.
So Ariel Helwani just tweeted out, UFC just officially announced Khabib versus Al Iaquinta tomorrow night, and all the steps for the belt, it is a done deal. So I believe that means it's going to be a 5-round fight for the belt. They're going to be stripping Conor McGregor, or is it for the interim title?
See, again, that's where we get into this wacky fucking this gray area that I don't know. It's so weird because they continue to say, I'm actually looking at the official rankings on the UFC website as we speak.
Okay.
They have Conor McGregor listed as the champion. This is in real time. Hold on, let me refresh just in case.
Okay.
Because so much has gone on this morning. Maybe okay, there it is. Conor McGregor is the champion. Tony Ferguson is the interim champion. Now, I know they update these after every fight, usually Monday after following every fight. So it's been a couple weeks, I guess, since they've updated it. But yeah, I mean, on what grounds? I mean, did you strip Tony Ferguson of the interim title and give it to Khabib by default? I mean, you can't really do that. I mean, Khabib hasn't actually beaten anybody to win a belt. So how can you make this for undisputed title? And furthermore, as I've said several times over the last few days, especially when Max Holloway was still in the conversation, I said, look, as much as I wanted to see Ferguson and Khabib, and as much as everybody does and has for so long, this just never seems to want to come together. But I said, you know what? The silver lining here is that the narrative with Max is actually way better because not only does it bring Conor McGregor back to the forefront, which in turn, high tide raises all boats. And so what that does is it puts more mainstream attention. It puts more casual fan attention. They should be acknowledged and they should have a ton of popularity, but they just don't. That's the reality of it. They have cult followings, from hardcore fans and from their respective regions of the world. Hawaiians are diehard, Russians are diehard. A lot of us UFC fans and analysts are diehard. But the thing is, you had about undisputed. The word undisputed is just kind of a name that they throw in there to make the title sound better. The undisputed. But never in the history of combat sports have I ever seen not one, but two titles that were actually very much disputed. And I'm talking about the featherweight UFC title and the lightweight UFC title, both of which are in fact disputed by Conor McGregor. Now, when he did his fight with Floyd Mayweather, he sort of dropped the argument about the featherweight title, but he still, I get the feeling he still hasn't let that go. But again, like I said, that narrative is no more. We have to move on from that now that Max is out, and now especially that Conor might be, who knows? I mean, I don't think the UFC will cut him. I mean, at the end of the day, cash trumps morals.
Well, Scott Coker even tweeted out, he was like, Conor, you're always welcome here, but that would never happen.
And Conor, some even mentioned, I think RJ Clifford said, look, you know, Conor could go and make his own promotion, and that's true. He could do that. He could make a ton of money doing that. He could do it in Europe if he wanted to, a ton of money out. I think the biggest thing, if the UFC wanted to hurt him, hurt his pocket, punish him, would be just to suspend him. For any, I mean, there's got to be, I don't know what the contracts look like, but there's got to be some type of some type of clause in there for your, what am I trying to say? Just a morality clause for your actions, for your behavior, for legal troubles. I mean, we've seen them kick out guys like Thiago Silva. I mean, look at John Jones. He spent a lot of time in limbo. Sada has. Just saying, even before that, even when it was just John Jones driving drunk and hit a pregnant lady, not necessarily a USADA issue or an athletic commission issue, but it's a legal issue, and it did give the UFC grounds to, put the brakes on him and put him on the shelf.
I mean, Conor McGregor as the champion is one of your most marketable fighters. It's just hard to believe that they'll strip him. But like you said, after this, and Dana White even said yesterday, in case anybody missed it, that the actions that Conor McGregor took last night was one of the most disgusting actions ever taken behind the scenes at a UFC event. Like I said before,
it's very true. It's very true. And go ahead.
Like I was saying before, Conor McGregor is one of the most marketable people. I really don't think they're going to strip him. But Khabib, though, as a champion, I like where things are going with him. And I think that's one of the main reasons that they made this a title fight, because Khabib really didn't want to fight again. I mean, look at the run that he's been on. He's undefeated. If he's putting any risk out there going on, 24 hours notice almost, you want to at least be worth it for the belt, right?
Yeah, and who knows, after the dust settles from all this craziness, and of course we know, like I said, Conor is going to be hit hard in the pockets for some civil lawsuits. That being said, when and if he is eligible to make a return to the octagon, and I believe he will, I don't know how soon, but let's say Khabib does win and he becomes the interim or the undisputed champ or whatever, that makes talk about narratives. Now we got ourselves a fight you can sell the hell out of. But another point Dana White made was like, look, and a lot of people have said this, like, this is one of the only sports, one of the only professions in the entire world where if you have a problem with somebody and you want to fight them, not only can you do it, but you can actually get paid for it. And it's literally what I mean. Like everything revolves around just that: a fist fight, a good old fist fight. Come on, man. How are you going to show up? And the biggest thing that makes the behavior and the actions disgusting is, the fact that other people that weren't even involved whatsoever, like a Michael Chiesa, like a Ray Borg, he got like scratches on his cornea. I mean, that is no joke. That is a serious injury. Anytime you're talking about life, limb, or eyesight, just stop the madness. I mean, this is not good. And then there was a security guy that got like a broken finger or something like this. And then you talked about the former owner of the WEC as well. It's just bad, man. It's just bad.
It is. It really is. So Rodney, right now, I believe Conor McGregor is allowed to leave. I mean, he turned himself in last night. He's allowed to leave. But last night, man, they weren't going to allow him to get back on that plane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you gotta face the music. I think he turned himself in. When you got something like this, especially you're a high-profile celebrity, not just in UFC, but just in sports and in general. I mean, Conor McGregor is a household name at this point. There is no person man, woman, or child, even if they're not a fan of this sport, that doesn't know who he is at this point.
My little sister watched Mayweather McGregor. My dad, like, it's just crazy. It's crazy how many people actually know who he is, which is why I was saying maybe it was a good thing. Maybe people are now more aware of the fights this weekend, and it will show in the pay-per-view. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there is part of that, but then again, like I said, the bummer is the fact that a guy like Chiesa is hurt, and you know, the opponents of him and Ray Borg, like Moreno and Anthony Pettis, they don't get to fight. Now, that being said, the fact that his plane was grounded and, you know, his passport was flagged or whatever, that doesn't surprise me, you know, because when you have a felony charge, that's pretty typical. I mean, I don't think you can leave the state of New York or any state when that happens. Now, if it was something minor, probably not a big deal. And especially since he's so high profile, of course, there was no way that he was going to get out of there. Because, I mean, that would just make the New York PD just look really, really stupid. Like, it would make them look stupider than they already did, just for the fact that they weren't able to just apprehend him at the scene when he's clearly, you know, causing chaos and committing crimes. Now, that being said, you know, I think Ariel had tweeted out, like, you know, conditions of his bond, you know, he's allowed to leave the country. And I'm like, Ariel, you've obviously never been arrested. You never have been even exposed to someone in your circle that's been arrested.
Yeah, I couldn't picture it.
Because I have, and let me tell you, I mean, it's not like, listen, he wasn't charged with murder, for God's sakes. Yes, if you're charged with a low-level felony, that's, I mean, I've, you know, I've caught a felony charge before, and I was able to actually get the charges dropped altogether. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's not as big of a deal as it sounds like. It is when you're getting your Miranda rights read, and they tell you that you're being charged, the crime that you're being charged with is a felony. That part makes your heart sink. But once you start to put it in perspective, you talk to lawyers and you figure out how it's going to play out, it's business. The bottom line is, you know, the DA, well, in a city like New York, you're talking about the assistant to the assistant to the assistant, very low on the totem pole DA. But they're not, I mean, the only incentive that they would really have to pursue this is the fact that Connor's a celebrity and to try to make their name off of that. But again, the criminal charges are so negligible that that's almost not even worth it. It's going to get pled down. He's not going to do any jail time. I doubt very seriously if there's even probation, because he'll probably get that felony down to a misdemeanor, if not dropped altogether.
First it was a water bottle. Then it's what was it? A dolly. What's next? Fly a plane into who knows? Who knows?
A chainsaw.
Who knows? But you know what? Let's talk about this co-main event that's getting undermined a lot. You know, between Rose Namajunas and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which I keep saying is going to be one of the best, or is one of the best rematches in females history. Can you think of another one that's this tense?
No, I mean,
Ronda versus Misha. I don't like. What else is
no, not even that, because I mean, no, because had Ronda come back and tried to rematch Holly, you know, which was on the table, she had the opportunity to do that, and she, elected not to. That would have been higher, but no, this is the one. I mean, you know, you're talking about Joanna, who seemed to be on the path to, well, she was already on a path of greatness, but she seemed to be, you know, on track to surpass Ronda Rousey at least in terms of maybe not commercial success and crossover and things like that, but, you know, you're talking about different dynamics when you get into that. But as far as accomplishments in the cage, I think she was getting ready to tie Ronda. I think Dana White said that on an interview I saw this morning. But nonetheless, this one I think plays out much like the first one did. You know,
really?
I'm a big fan of Chael Sonnen, and Chael Sonnen always says, you know, when there's a rematch, the rule of thumb is generally that the younger fighter that won the first time around is going to win the second time around only easier. I don't know how you could do it much easier than she did the first time, though, man, because it was just so picture perfect. Everything about her execution, it was almost as soon as the bell rang, Joanna always looks like a killer, like an absolute Terminator. And not that she didn't, but I think once Rose started to find her range and started to land, that at that moment, I mean, it was within a minute or so, I knew. I was like, holy shit, I think Rose is about to win this fight. I don't know how or I don't know why, but I think she is going to pull a big upset here. And it still made my jaw hit the floor faster than Joanna did when I saw it happen. I mean, I was just speechless. But I don't know. It could be an interesting. It could be an interesting rivalry if Joanna was to get in there and win this one. But I don't know. It's one of those things, and I'll end on this as far as this match goes. Styles make fights. It's all about matchups, and sometimes there's just a fighter that's got your number, and that's just the way it is. It's almost like the universe just won't allow it any other way. And it reminds me very much of Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman in the very first fight. Where Anderson Silva made the mistake, obviously, was
Getting cocky,
showboating in the ring, dropping his guard more importantly than anything. I mean, you could showboat a little bit, but don't. I mean, I was watching that fight in real time going, okay, man, you got to put your hands up at some point. You got to actually fight at some point. I mean, this is entertaining and all, but you're going to have to get back and fight, and he just didn't do it. Joanna did the similar thing, not in the cage, but leading up to it. She said some things that were actually very, very disrespectful to, people that suffer from behavioral health and mental health problems.
Yeah.
And can't do that. You can't do that because you're attacking. That's like if there's a lot of there are a lot of lesbian fighters in the UFC. If she was fighting a lesbian fighter and she made a derogatory remark about lesbians, guess what? You can't run that. You can't backtrack and then say, well, I was just talking shit to my opponent. No. You were talking shit to millions of people. Whether you like it or not, that's what you did. That's what happened. So that's what she did, and Rose made her pay for it. Rose didn't really show a lot of emotion leading up to it. She just she gritted her teeth. She took it all in, and, man, she did her speaking inside the cage. So it's a very similar narrative in that way to Anderson and Weidman. And, again, it's one of those things where I think you get back in there, and Rose just has her –
she's got the confidence from the first win. And you know what? Leading up to this fight, before the first fight, I mean, it was almost the perfect rise for Rose Namajunas. And there were so many people that were doubting her, that were saying there's no way that she's going to be able to beat Joanna. But now the page has turned after that fight. People are all saying, I mean, I believe on Tapology, Rose is the favorite amongst the fans to win this fight. And it's so interesting because the run that Joanna has been on has just been so dominant. There hasn't been any other females in the division that has been able to put a mark on her. But we have seen her rocked before, right? We saw her rocked against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and who has a loss to Karolina Kowalkiewicz? Rose Namajunas. So maybe if Karolina Kowalkiewicz wins tomorrow night against Felice, maybe that is the next rematch for Rose if she can get by Joanna Jędrzejczyk. But we're going to have to wait and see.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely think Carolina, however it is, I definitely think she beats Felice. I will say though, Felice has turned herself around in the last couple of years. I mean, she's looking pretty good in there.
That time off helped her. That time that she took off, she came back after that Page loss. She has looked a lot better.
Figuratively and literally. I just actually saw her a couple of months ago in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Her and Jens Pulver. They were actually there doing I was there. The Army sent me there for some training, and they were there for a couple of days doing some meet and greet type stuff with the troops, and that was pretty cool. But no, I got a chance to speak with her, and I told her just that. I said, look, you I don't know what you've done, but you've turned your I think a kind of a low point in her UFC career was when, and maybe it humbled her. It was when Paige Van Zandt beat the brakes off her. Because Felice went into that. I'm getting off track here. I'm sorry.
No. You're right on track. You're right on track because people need to be reminded.
Felice was Felice Herrig was talking so much shit about Paige Van Zant and then just got obliterated, man. She got schooled. And I think that kind of humbled her. I don't know. I think there was a point where she maybe thought about even leaving the sport. I know that wasn't the first time she thought about leaving the sport, but she really turned it around. But I think there's levels to this. I think, Carolyn, man, you just reminded me, though. I mean, there's so many good, even though we've lost a handful of good fights on this card, there's still so many good ones left.
Well, you know what, Rodney? Let's
another one of them.
Before we end this, I really want to run through this card for everybody, just to give predictions. And
yeah.
We'll leave off from the co-main event, which is Rose Namajunas. I'm going with Rose here too. I'm going with Rose to take it, but I would like to see Joanna actually. I wouldn't mind if either of them get the W, but I am going for Rose. If I got to put 5 on it, I'm going for Rose here. So I believe the fight below that is switched, isn't it? Like Calvin Kattar, right?
Hold on, I'll pull it up right now if you don't have it in front of you. I don't have it in front of me.
But also Paul Felder, man, what goes on with him now? He doesn't have an opponent. He's pulled off this card. Showtime? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, no, I think they're teammates actually.
They are teammates.
I don't think that they. I don't think that the UFC actually gives those guys show money. I mean, we've seen historically in the past where guys have gotten screwed out of their money in situations like this, and it's really tragic, man. I mean, I just think it's an act of bad faith. So yeah, gosh, you know what, Calvin Kattar, Renato Moicano, I don't know too much about. Hold on, let me.
Well, I'll tell you what. Not Clay Guida, but Brian Ortega fought Marciano. Marciano was doing good the entire fight until the 3rd round when he went for this ridiculous takedown on Brian Ortega in like the last seconds and got submitted. I don't know if you remember that.
Actually, I didn't. I think that was a little before Ortega was on my radar, because I think the first time, and I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say this, but like I knew Brian Ortega, but the one that really, like, his coming out party for me was when I saw him dismantle Cub Swanson. That for me was just like, oh my God. Now we've got ourselves a contender here. Because you're talking about a pretty damn good division. Actually, I do remember Kattar now, because I know why I remember him now that I look at his record. He stepped up on short notice to fight Andre Fili, and I was trying to get one of my buddies from Texas, Ray the Judge Rodriguez, who is just as deserving of that fight. But then once they booked Calvin, I said, well, this guy's pretty badass too, so we'll see what happens. And he ended up getting the upset over Andre Fili on short notice. And he also comes from CES, which, by the way, they've got a fight in Rhode Island going down. Right, one of my good buddies, Jason Norwood, is challenging Chris Curtis for the welterweight title. And I don't know much else about the rest of the card, but hopefully I can watch that some kind of way.
It will be on Access TV in case anybody's listening or watching that wants to tune into that. It's going down tonight. Pat Miletich will be there to give you guys analysis.
That's right. Yeah, so that one I can't really make a prediction, but what I know about Kattar, he's pretty badass, and he's on a hell of a streak. So.
Rodney, we got some questions. In here. So from Owen Young, is 223 still worthy of pay-per-view status, guys? We're reviewing the card, and you be the judge of that. For me, man, this is definitely worth it just to see Rose Namajunas versus Joanna, and now we got Khabib versus Raging Al. There's a huge question mark there that I want to see live in action. I don't want to see the highlight. I want to be watching. I'm at the edge of my seat. I mean, they're on the other side of this camera weighing in right now, so it's worth it. It's worth the $60, but that is an issue. Should they have lowered the price because of some of the fallouts here? The UFC never does that. So what about you?
Am I keeping you from the ceremonial weigh-ins? Is that going down?
Nope. I'm good. I'm not even planning. I wasn't even planning on going in there. Matter of fact, they canceled Darren Till and Kevin Lee. They're not going to be here for the presser afterwards, unfortunately.
Yeah, I saw Kevin Lee's plane was grounded in Vegas. I don't know what the reason was for that, but Okay, I gotcha. So I'll field that question. I don't know. I mean, I tweeted earlier. It was it was half. I was half joking, but I said, look, the next announcement the UFC gives us better be the new main event for UFC Fight Pass Brooklyn is. But I ain't gonna lie. I plan to pay for it regardless. I mean, there's just no way after all that's happened this whole weekend. I mean, there's just no way I could sit this one out. No way possible. And especially now that I have made the bold hot take prediction of Ally Quinta for the upset. So there you go.
Yeah, I wonder what the update on the odds for that now is. It's got to be up on like 5 times or something like that. But let's move on with this card. What is below that, if you have that up in front of you? Below Qatar?
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna admit I actually don't know who either one of these guys are. Zabit Magomed Sharipov, I'm sure I butchered that, and Kyle Bochniak.
Oh, Kyle Bochniak. Okay. They bumped him up to the main card?
Looks like it. Yeah. Wow. Looks like it's main card.
Wow, because that was actually originally the very first fight that was supposed to be on the prelims, which I don't even know was on UFC Fight Pass. But Kyle Bochniak, man, he's looked so good since his last fight. I mean, he actually had a full training camp, and he's got a whole bunch of people that are really excited for this fight. So I'm happy that they boosted it up to the main card. He'll get some paper.
Now I'm going off of Wikipedia here, but I mean, you remember we lost 3 fights total off of here. So I know based on something I saw from Rowdy Beck's social media feed, she said that they were bumped up from Fight Pass to Fox Sports 1, which I can confirm that here by looking at it. So I don't know. Yeah, so I get maybe there's no Fight Pass prelim. Maybe it's just FS1 and the main card. After that, we got Joe Lozon, and again a guy I'm just.
Not many people knew he was on this pay-per-view or on this card.
Yeah, I can't pronounce this guy's name either. Chris Grutzemacher?
He's on Chris Grutzemacher from Tough 22.
Yeah, so there you go.
He looks like the
Tough
Geico
22.
caveman. Yeah.
Tough 22.
Conor McGregor versus Faber that season.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I have a couple of buddies actually that were on that season. One of my co-hosts, Tom Galicchio from the MMA Latest. Yeah, from the MMA Latest podcast.
So that's your co-host. Where can people find that?
On Sundays. Yeah, on Sundays. So if you search MMA Latest Roundtable, wherever you find your podcast, and we usually actually go live on the MMA Latest Facebook page as well, and I broadcast it from there through Skype. So yeah, we've had matter of fact, we had Chris Curtis on recently. He's a training partner over at Team Quest in Temecula, who's the CES champion. And then we've got we got Joe Daddy Stevenson coming up on Sunday. So Daddy. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. But anyway, yeah. So no, I keep meaning to watch that season, and because he was on there. Julian Arosa was on there. He trains over at Extreme Couture. He's a good buddy of Tom. Also, he's good. No, you're thinking of Julian Lane.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Julian Lane was on with Smiling Sam Alvey's season, which is also another Team Quest Temecula guy. Anyway, so yeah, Joe Lozon, man, he's seen better days, but goddamn, I love that guy. And my prediction is pretty simple. I think he's going to win that one.
He's on a 2-fight losing streak right now. I mean, he lost to Stephen Ray, then to Clay Guida. So he definitely needs a win right now. And Grutzemacher, I believe he's also on a losing streak. I don't think he's had a win inside the UFC. But when he was on that season Ultimate Fighter, he was one of the favorites to get a win. So yeah, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. His last win was December 2015 against Abner Laveras, who was also on that season Ultimate Fighter. I'm going with Joe all day. Joe Lozon.
Yeah, they both are on 2-fight losing streaks, and then the next one we have is Carolina and Felice. I already gave my prediction there. I think there's levels to this. I mean, again, rankings aren't always statistics. All these things don't necessarily add up. But you're talking about the number 8 girl versus the number 4. one that's also challenged for the title. I think Carolina is. I think she's still a title contender. And again, as you pointed out, I mean, we've got a very interesting narrative there. If she wins impressively, her ultimate goal should be to call out the winner of Joanna versus Rose. And either way, she gets herself a good rematch and a shot at the title. So why not?
I mean, she's only struggled with 2 girls in that weight division, and it's been Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Claudia. She has a win over the current champ.
Yeah, didn't Claudia steamroll her, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, yep. You know, you also got to look out for Felice Harrigan with confidence, too, going into this fight. But I am going with Carolina to get this win. I don't know, I'm interested. I mean, the last fight that Felice had with Courtney Casey, they were just like standing in the same 3. They were doing the same 3 steps forward, backward, backward. Same. Every round was the same. So I don't know. I'm going with Carolina on this one. But Felice, man, she is a cutie. So that's always that's always a plus.
Yeah. I think they both are. And speaking of, I mean, in the next fight, you got Beck Rawlings, Ashley Evans Smith. Now, talk about a loser leaves town match. This is definitely that. I mean, you've got 2 girls again that are on losing streaks, unranked. Not really a whole lot of incentive for the UFC to keep them on if they lose, and especially with Beck Rawlings, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, the reason that they typically, get to keep their spot, and this is not a knock on women's MMA, it's just the reality of the situation. It's just like the heavyweight division, for that matter.
It's shallow.
Lack of depth, There are just not enough competitors there, and they need them. However, I don't say this a whole lot, but I will say it here. I would love nothing more to see Beck Rawlings knock Ashley Evans Smith into the stratosphere. I would love to see her knock her head clear to New Jersey from Brooklyn.
Wow. I mean, Ashley Evans Smith going on the radar after she beat the transgender fighter. What was her name? Not Phoenix.
Yeah.
What's her name? Not Phoenix.
Oh, hell. I was just reading about it the other day.
It's at the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember either.
Fallon Fox.
Fallon Fox. There you go. Yeah, Ashley Evans Smith, that was when she was on the radar, got signed to the UFC. Then she comes over, and she hasn't been doing too hot, but she's also dating, I don't know if you remember. Remember that video a couple years ago of that guy with tattoos all over his face, and he's talking smack at the weigh-ins, gets in the other guy's face, and then gets knocked out at the fight?
Oh yeah,
that's her boyfriend. That's Ashley Evans Smith's boyfriend.
I don't know if it still is. I know
it was Jesse Jess's boyfriend, and then he went over to.
Like I heard she kicked his ass, she head kicked him, knocked him out.
Shit. Who, Jesse Jess?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what a fucking loser that guy is. I don't know how he keeps getting these fucking hot chicks though. He looks so stupid with those tattoos all over his fucking face.
So we got Beck Rawlings, who's 7-7 right now. Like you said, loser leave town on this one. You're going with Beck Rawlings. Oh, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough one. Once again, I'd really like to see what Tapology has for the odds. I think Beck Rawlings can take Ashley on this one too, but I love Ashley Evans Smith. I don't want to pick against her, but I am here, and it would just suck to see Beck Rawlings out of the UFC. I really don't think the UFC will let Ashley Evans Smith go. Do you? Do you think?
No, not if she loses 3 in a row.
More
maybe.
So Beck.
Yeah, maybe if she had missed weight, because she made the weight pretty easily, but. This was, I believe, her first time trying to get down to that straw weight class. So, I don't know. She was 125.8. So, yeah, danger close, I guess. But made it nonetheless. And let's see here. Evan Dunham, Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Wow.
Finally has a shot to get on the rankings. Oliver finally has a shot to get on these rankings.
Yeah, look, man, when Dunham, they're both on a pretty good streak here. But, when Dunham first hit the scene, I remember for the longest time, but we're also talking about 8 years ago, okay? He was undefeated. He was a prospect in, people still call the 155 the deepest division. Maybe it is right now. I think it fluctuates between there and 170. But maybe right now, I think we're back to 155 being the deepest. But it's a whole new crop of young, up and coming fighters. Evan was that guy in 2010, but since then, he's hit a few skids. Right now, he's not currently on one of those skids. He's on a 4-fight win streak, and he's got a draw in there against Beneil Dariush for his last fight, though. I think I think Aubin Mercier wins this fight. I think that the draw with Dariush was very telling for me. It just, especially because I was there and I saw him afterwards, and I see him from time to time in Las Vegas, and nothing against Evan. But again, it just goes back to what I said. He was the up and coming stud at one point, and he looked like he was going to be a guy that maybe was poised to take over the division. However, that clearly didn't happen. Fighters don't age like wine. I don't think it's going to happen now. I think Mercier, on the other hand, Aubin Mercier, I think he is in that position, and I think he's going to take out the veteran.
I mean, both guys have really good ground game, but I think Oliver takes the cake with this one. But you're right, Evan Dunham, man. I mean, he beat Ross Pearson, Joe Lozon, Rick Glenn, who, God bless Rick Glenn, because he didn't look himself in his last fight. But nonetheless, Rick Glenn was the World Series of Fighting champion not too long ago. And then that fight with Beneil Dariush, which you just brought up, I got to agree. Oliver has great ground game, but I'm going with Evan Dunham on this one, and I've never picked against Oliver. It's a close one, though. Another one where I'd really like to see the odds. If you are on DraftKings, I wouldn't even touch this one because I really think it's pretty close here.
Just an interesting little fact I see here on Wikipedia. So it says for Khabib versus Al Iaquinta, it's catch weight 155.2, and then it also says in the footnotes, it says for the vacated UFC lightweight championship, but then in parentheses, only Khabib is eligible.
Say that one more time. In parentheses, what?
Only Khabib is eligible. I mean, does it get any crazier than this?
That's must have been the contract they settled on. Like I said, the last thing I knew was Khabib did not want the fight unless there was a title on the line. Raging now, man, I mean, can you get a title on that short notice and missing weight? No, you can't. I mean, but point two, he had his underwear on. Minion told me that he had his underwear on. That's easily 0.2 pounds, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I also saw someone that was there on scene had tweeted that, they thought that he was, going to get a chance to reweigh, but then they saw them taking the scale away and he didn't get an opportunity to reweigh. Why the hell not? I mean,
how long is it going to take to set up a scale, right?
Oh my God! I mean, it takes an act of Congress, dude. I mean, these commissions are just a joke. And being from Texas, I gotta say, man, people talk a lot of shit about the TDLR, but hey, we ain't got nothing on New York. We ain't got nothing on New York.
Every time the UFC comes here, there's an issue. There's always an issue every time the UFC comes here. Yeah. Which reminds me, how's the judging going to go tomorrow night?
Well, you know what? After all the heartache and disappointment that we've had, hopefully this is one of those cards that happens every now and then where we just don't need them. Where we don't need their input. I'm not holding out for the best, but we'll see. I think it'll be all right though, because I think matchup wise, I think the only ones that have the potential to be really close, the only really significant ones have the potential to be close is maybe like the co-main event. I think if Rose doesn't score another big finish, I think Joanna's gonna take her into the distance and the deep waters, and that's we know Joanna can do that. She's good at that. Even after, as you put it out, even after she's been hurt, she can do that.
So moving forward, I just got a message saying that Conor McGregor is leaving court right now, right down the road here in Brooklyn. So hopefully he'll be arriving here for tomorrow night's fights. But I don't know if he's allowed in the building, is he? Do you know anything about that? Is he going to be allowed to be at the fights?
I know that they mentioned that he wasn't allowed to be there today. And I was like, well, yeah, Ariel tweeted that. And I'm like, okay, well.
It's only going to be worse tomorrow.
Yeah, I doubt very seriously if he was planning to come to the fucking ceremonial weigh-ins. I mean, nobody really gives a shit, let's be honest. But the fights, I mean, I don't know. That's the UFC's call. I haven't heard anything, but I don't see why not. I think that's kind of fun.
So breaking news, this is the current for now UFC 223 fight card. 9 bouts in total, 4 fights on Fox Sports 1 prelims, and 5 on the pay-per-view. So it's going to be looking like this, guys. In the main event, we're going to have Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Al Iaquinta. Co-main event still is Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. The third, Couture Maciano. Fourth, like you said, Rodney, Bochniak versus Magda Shirapirapov. And then Joe Lozon versus Gritzmacher. That is our main card. And you know what? The prelim card looks really pretty decent, and the last fight on it is Clark versus Rodriguez. Let's give our predictions for that and wrap this up with some closing thoughts.
You know, I don't have a clue who Mike Rodriguez is, and again, yeah, as we get deeper on this card into the what do you call it, the prelim, the Fight Pass territory, which is no longer Fight Pass. This is a guy from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, so he's fought with RFA a lot. I fought in an RFA card not too long after his last RFA fight before going into the UFC, actually in San Antonio. So I know they do it. Anyway, so he used to be the champion over there. He dropped down to middleweight. That didn't work out for him. He's back up to heavyweight. Man, this is tough. I mean, he's 2-2 in the UFC. What do you know about his opponent?
So Devin Clark's last loss was to Juan Blachowicz. Was Devin Clark's last loss, and we all know what Juan Blachowicz just did.
Yeah, I mean he's a monster, absolutely.
But Rodriguez, man, his Muay Thai, is that who you're talking? You're talking about Rodriguez?
Yeah, I don't know who he is. I've never.
Yeah,
seen him fight.
Pretty much just Muay Thai. He was on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, I believe.
Wait. What? He was on Contender Series?
Yeah, Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, number 5, versus Jamal Jones. Back in August, excuse me.
Because I actually went to a couple of those, man. And,
you enjoy it because they just announced the new season. Valentina Shevchenko's sister, Antonina Shevchenko, will be joining Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and she's going to be coming on my show this week in the next couple of days, guys. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe below. But I'm sorry, Rodney, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying there were some good fights, and there was some guys. No, I didn't see this guy. I'm looking at his. So he's out of Lozon MMA. Okay, so he won. Jamil Jones versus with a flying knee. Okay, wow. So and then after that, I mean, gosh, he's coming off of several finishes. I mean, he does have a submission loss in CES. There goes CES MMA again, putting fighters on the map.
Yeah.
But no, I saw the last 2 of them, and what I was going to say is that there are some great guys that didn't get the contract that I hope to see in the future, you know, on that series. And I'm definitely looking forward to this next one coming up. And I'm I feel bad that I didn't know Mike Rodriguez, but I will after tomorrow. We're going to see what happens. This is 2 killers, man. Light heavyweight it's always.
So you know what? This is actually not bad for a card. And our original question, now that we've reviewed it all, definitely worth the $60. I mean, it really does suck that we're not going to see Artem Lobov versus Bruce Leroy. I was so excited about that. There was a lot on the line there for Artem. Michael Chiesa versus Showtime Pettis, that was another one I really wanted to see. Paul Felder versus Al Iaquinta, I was more excited about that than I am about Khabib versus Al Iaquinta, 100%.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of rivalry there, too. I know that I don't know what the beef is exactly, but speaking of Tuesday Night Contender Series, Paul Felder is one of the announcers on there.
Yep.
And I got a chance to interview a guy who was on the show. He got a contract. He fought Marco Polo Reyes in his UFC debut. Matt Steamroller Favola. He's out of Longo MMA, Sarah Longo MMA.
Right here in NY.
Yeah, and let me tell you, man, he last time he was on my podcast, he said that he wants to fight Paul Felder, and he doesn't like him, and he said that the reason was because he felt like Felder had made some derogatory comments about him during his commentary, and I thought that's kind of weird. I didn't pick up on anything like that, but then it got me thinking maybe there's some sort of a rivalry because Felder's from Philly, and then you've got the New York guys. They're just destined to clash with each other, just like Conor McGregor and the Dagestanis, I suppose.
I was about to say, how can somebody hate on Paul Felder? I mean, he's been on my show. He's been on this show a couple of times, man. He's one of the loveliest people out there, going through a hard time. Just lost his father. So,
wow.
But commentary, if there's anyone that you should be hating on commentary, especially with Dana White Tuesday Contender Series, I mean, give Snoop Dogg a hard time, not Paul Felder.
Yeah, really. I think a lot of people would like to fight Snoop Dogg after that. I hope they don't bring him back.
Yeah,
that was it.
We still don't know about that, though. We still don't know if the Snoopcast is coming back, do we?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I haven't heard, and I hope not. I think he disrespected the sport way too much to be welcome back, and especially, his borderline racist rant that he did on Instagram after McGregor lost to Mayweather. So I don't appreciate that one bit.
So Rodney, our closing arguments here. If you had to rate this card, just looking at it on paper, out of 5 out of 5, what do you rate this on paper for a pay-per-view, especially for the UFC? I mean, we went weeks and weeks without any UFC. We had a Fight Pass card in between. Then there was all this madness that just spiraled out of control on Sunday night. What do you rate this card?
Well, it was definitely a 5 out of 5. Even when Max Holloway stepped in in fact, like I said before, I think that might have even been
boosted it. Yeah.
It might have even been better. However, gosh, man, now I got to say this one, I still give it a strong 4 out of 5. I'm excited. There's not a single fight on here that I'm not going to be glued to the television to watch.
So where are you going to be watching the fight, and are you going to be live tweeting at all for people to jump on Twitter and conversate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. At Rodney James 138, and of course MMAsoldier.net is my own personal website. I write for MMA Latest News. I may be tweeting on all three. I don't know. But for me personally, it's at Rodney James 138 and at MMA Soldier 138.
And his Twitter tag is right down here below on the video cast. If you're listening, there you go. So, Rodney, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on Pure Evil MMA. We got to do it again.
Thank
you have
you.
to tell Toothless Tom I said, what up? And, definitely good luck with those candy machines that he's got.
I will tell him. I will speak to him on Sunday. We will recap this crazy, crazy week and this crazy weekend, and hopefully this crazy fight card on Sunday. And I'll make sure that we get that shout out.
Rodney, thank you so much. And last thing I want to say to you is if you have any sponsors, any tags or anything other than Twitter and
Not right now. No, like I said, MMAsoldier.net is the website. Rodney James 138 is the YouTube channel. Come and see me.
Thank you so much, Rodney, and have a great day.
Thank you, brother. You too.
So there you go, guys. UFC 223, we are on the way there. I am currently at the Barclays Center. The fighters are all around me right now. We had a couple of people that actually sat here listening to the podcast. So I want to thank all of our new listeners, all of our new fans, and it's pretty cool that you guys tracked me down here. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, and this is going to be up on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Podomatic, so subscribe down below. We do this every week, and I'm going to be getting all the recaps, all the updates on Twitter at evil_echo. Get all the latest updates at mymmanews.com, and enjoy the night.